If you invest only $100 per week until next 30 years, guess how much money you're gonna make? Roughly $831,000, which is almost $1 million. Obviously, it's assuming that you're gonna have an average of 10% annual return, which is very much possible, but almost $1 million just by $100 per week, which is crazy. So what are you waiting for? You need to start investing. You're gonna ask me how? That's what we're gonna talk about in this video. Let's go. What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Yuri. I'm a senior product manager at a fintech startup company. On this channel, we talk about career wellness, self-improvement, and personal finance. And today's topic is how do you get started with investment? You have been making money and you're like, okay, I don't want to put this money in my savings. I want to make my money work for me, but I don't know where to get started. This video is for you. Let's start with step number 1. Before we get started, I want to put a quick disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor, and so this is only for education and entertainment purpose only, so that you don't sue me. Step number 1 is finding a brokerage account. Nowadays, everything is online. You don't even have to go to physical location. You can do it everything online. You're probably wondering like, what is brokerage account? This is separate from your bank account. You have a bank account, you need a brokerage account. Brokerage account is where you will have the money, and from that money, you will invest into the stocks. So these brokerage accounts are available everywhere. There are tons and tons of options. So you might be confused which one to choose from. I will tell you which one I have. You can use them or you can do your own research. I have Vanguard, Fidelity, Robinhood and Webull. Robinhood and Webull are the app, which is also brokerage account. They are more simpler and easier to use. Vanguard and Fidelity were through my companies, and they are through my companies, which is also brokerage account, and they provide retirement accounts as well. So you can pick one of these, or you can even go and do your research. Don't spend too much time figuring out like, is this the right brokerage or not? Do some research on like, what are the fees? Are they charging you per transaction? Nowadays, most brokerage account don't charge you for any transaction, but there might be some they do. What are the fees? Do they allow automated investments? What are their deposits? What are their withdrawal limits? And what education resources they have, and all of that. Do all of this and figure out a brokerage account which is best suited for you. But again, my advice would be don't spend so much time on this. Just get one and get started. Step number 2 is once you have decided the brokerage account, you have to open the account. Now, depends on the brokerage account you choose. There are a few requirements you will have. You will have to provide your identity proof. You will need internet connection. Obviously, if you're doing it everything online, you will need your bank account, which you need to tie to your brokerage account, which is where it's going to pull the money and send the money once you want to withdraw or deposit the money. You will also need a social security. Yes, you cannot open it without social security because everything ties to your tax, and you have to pay taxes once you make money on gains or losses. We'll talk about that in a separate video, but you need social security. You will also need to fill out your W-9, which is what you might have already filled out in your job. You just have to fill that out again. Don't worry, it's not super complicated. It's as simple as opening your bank account. They just need to make sure that they are validating who you are and verifying your identity. So once you are done, then comes to the step number 3. Step number 3 is waiting. Sometimes the brokerage account are super quick that they will instantly approve you within like few seconds, few minutes, few hours, or some are which will take like couple days, 3 days, 4 days, maybe a week. Behind the scene, they are just making sure that you are a real person and they are validating your identity. If you don't hear back, then definitely send them an email to ask them like what's happening with your application, but it shouldn't be a problem. So step number 4 is to fund your brokerage account. Now this depends on how much your financial goals are, how much investments you want to do, and all of that. I would start as simple as $100 a week, which is what I told you, or you might have $10 budget, $15 budget, $50, $1,000, depending on your financial situation. Step number 5 is actually making an investment. This is where things get really interesting and also kind of scary. So my piece of advice would be to invest into index funds, ETF, or mutual funds. I would highly recommend you to do that over investing into individual stocks. I know that a lot of people talk about Google, Apple, Tesla, and Coinbase and all these fancy companies, but please don't invest into individual stocks if you are not going to spend time understanding the markets. Take an example of S&P 500 index fund, which means that when you invest in that index fund, you are technically investing in the collection of top 500 companies. So you don't have to worry about the risk of it because it's average out the whole market of top 500, and it is more stable and secure versus investing into Tesla or Google or Facebook or so and so. And if you end up using Robinhood or Webull, my links are in the description. If you use it, you get free stock, I get free stock. We both are happy. I'll be making several videos on this topic. And if you need help which index funds to invest, here are some of the index funds which I invest into, and I'll put it in the description as well. You're more than welcome to check them out, but you don't have to invest into them, but they are more safer and I like them. Step number 6 is to automate this process going forward. When I say automate, I mean automating the funding of brokerage account. Let's say if your budget is that every week you want to invest $100, like I said in the beginning of the video, then you don't want to manually keep transferring because you might forget someday. So you can automate your finances. Basically, you can tell the brokerage account that, hey, every week, pull the money from my bank account, $100. This is the time, this is the day, this is when you can pull it. You don't want to invest automatically, which is also available for a lot of brokerage accounts where they do recurring investments. I don't recommend that because you don't know the market situation, especially if you're someone who has forgotten to check. You might end up buying something very high price versus low price. So I would just invest and then slowly keep an eye on it. But if you're generally investing in S&P 500, you can completely recurring payments into buying those as well. Step number 7 is to control your emotions and forget about what you have invested. If you have invested in good mutual funds and ETFs and index funds, don't worry about it. It will come back up again. Market always goes up, always goes down, always goes up, always goes down. So don't worry. Don't sell into the fear. Don't buy into the fear, FOMO, which is fear of missing out. Like there might be an IPO launching of so-and-so company, Airbnb launched their IPO and everybody's like, you should buy it, you should buy it. And people bought it. And then, when IPO launched, it was like $200+ and now it's like less than $100. And now you have learned how to invest into stock market. Super easy, right? It wasn't complicated. Please don't wait that I want to understand it. I want to run this. I want to read the books and then I will get started. I would highly recommend you just get started. $10 every week. Just get started. Here are some of the things you want to consider before you want to start investing. Number 1 is, do you have your emergency fund ready? Don't invest before you start your emergency fund or before you have your emergency fund in place. 3 to 6 months of living expenses or your salary, make sure you have that. So that way, if things goes wrong, you can always rely on emergency fund. Number 2 is, if you have full-time job, please utilize tax deduction investments before you start investing on your own or personal investment. What I mean by that, most likely your company is going to have your retirement investment plan, so you can use that. The only disadvantage is that you cannot pull out the money until you retire. Although there are ways to pull out and pay penalty and all of that, we'll talk about it in separate video. But start there because those are tax deductible, which means you have tax advantages on those investments. Another point to keep in mind is you should always analyze the performance. Even though I told you that forget about it, keep an eye. Like every week, maybe check like, okay, it's doing okay, well, good. Doesn't mean you have to react on it, but just keep an eye on your performance of the stock. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you do decide to sell some of the stock, remember you will have to pay taxes because you sold something. If you invest into something, you don't pay taxes unless you are getting money from your dividend. If you are getting money from dividend and you're not reinvesting it, that money is considered as an income. So make sure you pay taxes on it. But unless and until you sell your stock, you don't have to pay taxes. But when you do decide to sell your stock, whether it's a profit or a loss, you do have to pay taxes on this. And so you have to put it in your tax return as well. So there you have it. You have learned how to invest into stock market, opening a brokerage account, funding the brokerage account, buying a stock, withdrawal and depositing the money, tax, and being mindful of everything I've just said. And if you enjoyed this video, I am 100% sure you are going to enjoy how to automate your finances right here. So go check it out. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep smiling and keep hustling. You gotta hustle every single day.